welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you some of the repotting that I'm doing to take these plants indoors, and part of that is also repotting this jade plant. I've had this jade plant for a really long time, and just recently I started noticing that it was losing all of its leaves and just looking like it wasn't healthy anymore. So what I'm planning to do is these two shoots here have lost all their leaves, and they are producing new growth. So I'm going to, and if you notice this one is also dying here. So this plant has been with me for over 10 years, and I kind of want to save it and make sure that it is repotted in something else so that it can have a chance at survival. And I'm going to give it a nice prune trim, and then I'm going to repot it in a different pot. Currently it is in this large pot here, but I think I'm going to move it to a much smaller pot and try to save as many of its shoots and branches that I can. And then we will see how this plant recuperates. And the other plant that I will also repot is, I'm going to put it in this large pot, is this Alocasia plant. So this is just a regular Alocasia plant that I've had for a while. It's an elephant ear, so I'm going to repot it in this pot over here, and then I'll show you how I'm doing that. I like to use a tarp under where I am repotting so that it's easier for cleanup after. I just take the tarp and I just dump the excess soil that's left, or any remains that are left from the plant, back into my soil so that it can compost and be reused. So I'm just going to be using this tarp. I'm going to remove this plant from this pot, and then I'm going to see what I can salvage of this plant, and then find another pot for it and repot it. There you go. This plant is now out of the pot, but there are some dead branches that just fell apart as I was moving this plant out of this pot. So I'm going to take those out and see what I can do with the rest of the plant. So the rest of the plant looks like it's in good shape. And I'm going to try to salvage the rest of the plant and put it in a pot to kind of fit its size. I might give it a bit of a prune or a trim. I don't mind the way the branching is looking right now. This one I might give it a bit of a trim, and also give this one a little bit of a trim as well, and it should start producing new leaves for me. So I'm going to do that and show you what this looks like. This is the pot that I'm going to put this jade plant in, and fill it with some fresh new potting soil and trim off some of these branches, and repot this plant so that it can have a better chance to flush out new growth and settle in this new pot. And I'm going to find something else for this pot that I can add to and grow in there. But for now, this plant I think will be happier in a smaller pot, especially with the proportion that it has right now and the stems that it has lost. I want to give it a good chance to grow in this new pot and fresh soil, and I will give it a trim as well. Here it is. I have given it a good prune, and I know it looks a little bit drastic at this point, but I think that was necessary based on the health of this plant, and if I didn't do it I would have probably lost the whole plant. So, and also the stems were getting really like droopy and they were falling all on one side, so hopefully this will give it a better branching and a stronger stem structure. And I'm going to fill it with soil and pot this up in this pot. So the soil I'm using today is a regular potting soil. This one is both for indoor and outdoor purposes. It is an organic potting soil, so it's multi-purpose, nothing out of the ordinary. It's just a regular old potting soil, and the brand is Organics. and I've used this one in the past, and it's been good, and it's been pretty steady. So I'm going to use this potting soil for this planting and all the other plantings that I'm taking indoors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repot this Alocasia plant next. So this one has been in this pot for a while now, and it's doing really well. So I'm just going to move this plant in here and see how it does in this bigger pot. And I think it looks really nice with the plain green colors. It really looks nice with this colorful Mexican pot. So I think this would be a good pairing for this plant and this pot, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to repot this elephant ear plant in this pot and show you what this looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to empty out this pot of this old soil in which the jade plant was planted, just because I don't want to risk anything that was affecting the jade plant to kind of transfer onto the Alocasia plant. So I just want to start clean. So I'm going to dump the soil, and I'm going to clean out this pot with soap and water, and then I'm going to put some fresh soil and pot the Alocasia plant in this pot. Here it is. I've cleaned out this pot, and it's ready to take on its new resident here. So I'm going to fill it up with soil and put this plant in here and show you what it looks like. So here it is. This plant is all potted up, and it looks really nice in this pot. I did end up mixing a little bit of perlite in the soil just to loosen it up a little bit and make sure that there is enough drainage in the soil. And I also did not fill this pot up all the way to the top, because it doesn't need all that soil based on the size of this plant. So I think it'll be good that it is almost like a little bit more than half full with soil, and it's enough for the height and size of this plant. So this one is done being potted as well. And the next one that I'm going to repot is this ZZ plant here. It is in its original nursery pot for about over a year, and I noticed that it is producing a lot of new leaves, but I noticed some yellowing and some kind of weakness in this plant as well. So I think it'll benefit from being in a larger pot, and also change of soil. So I'm pretty sure this one is starting to get a little bit root bound, although I do not see any roots at the bottom. But I think I will move it to a pot, but not a very large pot, probably a size larger than the pot it's in right now, and I will show you what this looks like. Here it is. This is the pot that I'm planning to put this ZZ plant in. I think it's a nice complement to this green colored plant. This yellow looks really nice against this green, so I think I'm going to put this ZZ plant in this pot. It is not terribly bigger than the pot it's in, probably just a size bigger, and I think that will be good for this plant. So I'm going to pot this up in this pot, and I'll show you what this looks like. What the roots look like of the ZZ plant. It is not terribly root bound, but it was quite pot bound. So I think what I'm going to do is loosen some of these roots before I put them in the pot, and make sure that you know, they have a chance to kind of grow in their new environment. So I filled the bottom of this pot with some soil, and I'm going to loosen these roots and place this plant in the pot. The roots are all loosened up, and it's ready to go in its new pot. So I'm going to place this in this pot, and I'm going to backfill it with fresh soil. I will show you when it's all done. So here it is. The ZZ plant is in its new pot. I will have to clean up these pots because the soil is pretty wet, and it's been sitting outside, and it's just been a messy process because it's been raining here a lot. So I will clean up the pots, and I will put some water in these pots. Although the soil is pretty moist, so it doesn't really need a lot of water at this point. I might just give it a little bit of a drink just because it's just been transplanted, and it's probably going to be in a little bit of a transplant shock. But here these 3 plants are in their 3 new homes, and very excited to have put them in these new pots. And it's just a chore that I needed to complete before winter kicks in, and make sure that they are in new fresh soil and I can take it indoors, and it will take them a little bit of time to adapt to their new pots. And most times the plants do okay. Sometimes you might see some leaves that might fall off, and there might be a little bit of yellowing, but just make sure that the plants are moist and they're not overwatered, and they are in the light conditions that they need. The jade plant doesn't need too much light. It can probably go in the same spot it was in. It was getting indirect filtered light. And then the elephant ears plant, this one can go, alocasia can go. Also, it doesn't need too much bright light. I mean, it can go in a bright spot, but not too close to the window. And then the ZZ plant is a low light plant anyways. It was sitting in a corner in my kitchen and it was doing okay. I did notice some leaves turning a little bit yellow, so maybe there is some kind of a deficiency that was developing, and it kind of needed a new rich soil and a better pot. So I'm hoping that this is going to remedy whatever situation was happening with this plant, and it got a little bit of care, and the roots are a little bit loosened. So hopefully this will help this plant, and it is going to stay green and healthy. It does have a lot of new growth, so it's doing really good. It's just that some of the leaves, the lower leaves, were turning a little bit yellow on the tips. So it just points to me that there is some sort of a deficiency, which should be remedied by fresh new soil. So that's it. I wanted to share with you some of these plants that I was repotting today. I will also be repotting some ferns that I have in the backyard, that are indoor ferns that I left out as well, and I will also share those with you in this video. Some of the ferns that I had in my backyard, this plant was almost dead, but I can see that it has nicely recovered outside, and I'm going to put it in a smaller pot, and hopefully it will do okay during the winter indoors. And this one here was dying, and it's kind of pushed out new growth, but I noticed that it had a lot of water because of the rain, and it's starting to kind of die back again. And so I'm going to see what I want to do with these plants, but most likely I will probably repot this one and that one looks like it can also go in a smaller pot in fresh soil, and I'll see how these look. The ferns all repotted. I'm sorry the pots look a little messy, but I will clean this up because everything is so wet and it's a rainy day. But here is the fern. I've repotted it in a much smaller pot because there was only a little bit of the crown that was producing, so I kind of got rid of all the excess roots, and I moved it into a smaller pot. Hopefully it'll do well in this pot and it'll fill in. And then the other 2 ferns, I decided to repot them back in this larger pot together because they are not looking like they are very healthy. So I just want to see how much of this will grow back, and then based on that I can decide which one I want to keep and how they do. Hopefully, you know, they'll come around, and these weren't really doing very well indoors as well, so you know, I don't want to just throw it out. I'm gonna give them a chance to grow in here and see how they do, and I will post updates on this as well. If it's doing well or if it wasn't a success, I'll let you know. But here they are. All of these are now fully planted, and they're ready to be moved inside after I give them a good cleanup and give them a little bit of water. These ones are already quite soggy and full of water, so I don't think I'll be adding any more water. The ferns can go in a more shady spot in your house. Like, it doesn't really need a lot of light, so usually I put them under things and nestled you know, at the bottom of other plants that I have, and they do okay there. So that's what I'm going to do. As you can see, I'm not a white pot person. All my pots are different colors, shapes, sizes, textures, and I really like the blend of all the colors. Like this one is really cute. It has a palm tree and a sun, and water. This reminds me of a vacation, and the fern kind of like adds to that little feeling there. And then this one is just a simple turquoise, almost crackled pot look, and this one here is more of a Mexican pottery. And then this one here is a simple like terracotta pot, which is also glazed, and it has like this two-tone, almost like a nice yellow. It's almost like a, I can't describe this color, it's almost like a greeny yellow with this two-tone effect with the terracotta, which I really like in this pot. And then this one is a really plain teal turquoise pot. It's one of my favorite colors, so I mean I instantly get drawn to everything teal and turquoise. So this one is nice because it's not just plain, it's got like a texture on it, which I really like. And if you can see, right, like once you start mixing colors, a lot of the colors go with each other, and it's not just to me about just the plant, it's about the plant and the pot and the story they all tell together. And for me, that story is this eclectic mix and just these colors and textures and vibrancy that plants and colors add to your life. So I just wanted to share these plants with you today, the repotting journey of these plants. You know, there's always things to do when you have indoor plants. Something or the other will always need repotting. There are plants that will need attention, plants that have been with you for a long time, like this Jade, and have been doing so good for like, I don't know, over 10 years and gone so huge, and then suddenly one day they decide to just, you know, start shedding their leaves and dying, and you want to save them because they're part of your history, they're part of, you know, how you've grown as a plant person, and you want to save these plants. And I think that is the journey for me with plants, is that there is always something to do, something to care for, and something to learn from these, and they just keep giving. And I think that is just the resilience in plants. Like, look at this plant, it shed everything and it still has hope, it has leaves, and it has this ability to grow, and that's what makes me very happy when I'm around plants, and I see their resilience, and I see their hope, and I see their smiles on their faces when they're in a new environment, or, you know, when I see something thriving and flowering and producing a new leaf. It's such a joy, right? So that's what I wanted to share with you today. It's not just about perfection in planting, it's about understanding and adapting with the plants and giving them that, you know, that care and love and attention. And believe it, like if there are some plants that you aren't paying attention, like I have over 100 plants indoors, and sometimes some plants get neglected and you don't see something, they will raise their hand and tell you, okay, look at me now, or this is what's going to happen to me. So I think it's just one of those things, is also when you have older plants, reliable plants, you get comfortable with how they look. They're always looking good and they're reliable. But there are times that they need attention, and there is something going on that needs care and attention. And I think that is what, you know, I'm learning being a plant person, owning more plants than ever now than I ever did. There is always something that draws your attention. There's always something that needs to be done, whether it's outdoors or indoors, and that is like a constant giving journey both ways. So just wanted to leave on this note, and I hope everyone is having a great day, and you've kind of come along and learned something from me in this repotting video, and have a very nice day. Thanks so much for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video. I will be posting more updates and videos throughout the winter and throughout the fall, and I hope to keep sharing my plant journey with all of you. Thank you.